Be the Talk, episode 282, featuring Ola Pinney. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Ola Pinney. Molly, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready to talk. Born ready.
Ola Pinney is the founder and CEO of the Global Autism Project, a nonprofit organization that increases the capacity of local individuals working with children with autism worldwide. Under Molly's leadership, the organization is well on its way to its goal of working with 20 centers worldwide by 2020. Ola Pinney, welcome to the talk.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here.
So your talk is called Doing Things for Others Doesn't Help. And in your talk, you talk about how all these, really a very similar experience that I've had doing a little bit of humanitarian work overseas. You talk about being raw, getting ready to go out there, and there are empty schools, and there's all kinds of resources, and they're not being used. And basically, it's because the people that went in there, the NGOs are not being partnership minded. They're being rescue minded. My words, not yours. And basically it's not really working when we go in there without having a mind to partner and really do things with people. So please take us behind the talk.
Yeah. So do you want me to talk more about the talk now? Or
well, whatever you'd like to talk about. But I've got to ask you this. There's a brilliant, it's kind of, it's a little scathing, but there's some kind of a Barbie Instagram account that talks about this very thing. So, crazy rescue Barbie. And if you watch this Instagram, man, it's going to make you feel a little cringy. But take us behind the talk.
Yeah, awesome. So a little bit about the talk. Let's see. So the premise of the talk, as you said, is to do things with people rather than for people. And the simple idea that when we do things for people, we remove their agency, we remove their ability, to make their own decisions even. And, I learned this. I started my organization, the Global Autism Project, before I had actually finished my undergrad in college. So I had this sort of crash course in life and learning and humanitarianism and NGO work and sustainability. And then went back to college at Columbia University, was reading all about what I had just experienced and realized it just really kind of stuck with me. And like, no amount of reading about anything, of wanting to do things for others, is going to teach you what you can learn when you commit to doing things with others. A little bit of background on the organization is I started the organization because people were looking for me to work with their children with autism. I realized that there was an autism center locally already in town, went on the internet and was looking for people who could come to Ghana and train us. And found it didn't exist. So at the, very ambitious stage of my life that one is at 23, I thought, we'll start in Ghana and go all over the world. How hard could it be?
How hard could it be?
I am here to tell you 15 years later, it can be incredibly challenging and you'll want to give up. So the talk was really an exciting opportunity to sort of distill down, it had about 19,000 other titles. I gave the talk on Saturday, 11/11. I remember that, November 11th. And I thought about the talk for a couple of weeks at least. I found out relatively last minute I was doing the talk, which I felt like was a good thing.
Yeah, a good thing.
I thought it was a good thing because when I think about talks and art and writing is that it takes as much time as you give it. So had I known for 6 months I was going to do this talk, I could have potentially spent 6 months on it.
Yeah.
I didn't have 6 months to spend on it. So it worked out great. So I found out, as I said, relatively last minute. By Wednesday, the week before, I batted around a lot of ideas. I couldn't quite, I was like 4 words or less. And that's where the do with not for came from, the do with not for hashtag that we're starting to use a bit more. I'm seeing it. It's funny. I'm seeing it more and more. And it was, let's see, so I can take you behind the talk. There were a couple of us on my team and me sitting on the floor next to a whiteboard. And I had this really cool sort of diagram that was sort of like the problem, the story, the solution, it was sort of like the arc of the talk. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, how hard can it be? Right? Like, how hard can this be? People do these all the time, right?
Mm-hmm. You said 11:11. Now, folks listening, Talk Universe, very few people had even known what a TED Talk or a TEDx talk was in 2011. This was 7 years ago.
November 11th.
Oh, November 11th. Oh, 11/11. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
11/11, 2017.
2017. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Don't edit that out, Lester, because I make mistakes, but just in case, it's all good. So thank you for placing that in there. Let's see if I'd love to hear your thoughts on just because a lot of people listening to this, they do governmental work, they do humanitarian work. I'm always my spouse is in healthcare, so I'm always a little bit of the hostage, and I get to go around and to kind of do the leadership stuff and the coaching stuff and the soft skills stuff. And she's in, most recently we were in a red light district, and she was, consulting the specialists there, helping to slow the diseases and all of this. Ghana is, I believe, more in Western Africa. I was in East Africa doing some things. Just if you can just kind of paint the picture to Talk Universe of anybody who hasn't had the opportunity, really the honor and the privilege to go to a developing country, a country under development, and come up with these dynamics. How much of a shock of it was it to you, doing with, not for, and making that change in your mind? You've already kind of told us the story, but what was the shock like, and maybe the humility or whatever you would call it to change the mindset? Because many of us, kind of privileged Westerners, we're kind of getting our mind around it right now, but I don't know that we've completely got it. So if you can speak to that, I think that would be really, really helpful, Molly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I talked a little bit in the talk about how I'd be driven around. First of all, I moved there to work privately with one kid with autism, with one family for a couple of months. I stayed for 2 years. Well, I was going to be there for almost a year. I stayed for 2 years because, again, people started showing up in my house. And when I first got there, I'd be driven around, riding in the car, and they'd say, oh, an NGO did that, an NGO did that. And again, I talk about it a little bit in the talk, but what I would see is dilapidated school buildings. What I would see is an SUV that looks totally out of place, all kinds of really kind of just out of place, awkward things. And they would say an NGO did that. So I had decided essentially that there was a local spelling for NGO, NDZIO, and that it meant terrible, basically a terrible person. And I later learned that NGO is an acronym, NGO, non-governmental organization. And I was really just kind of blown away by what I saw. And there was, there were a lot of moments, and there have been over 15 years working in many countries now. There are a lot of moments of just humility for sure. That's the only way we get anything done, basically. But it was abundantly clear to me that I was not the best person to teach kids with autism when I realized that I didn't even know how to eat the local food. I was like, I don't even know how to eat this. Do you like this? And then, there have been other moments. We were working in Indonesia. I remember we were going to do toilet training, and we realized we don't even know how to use the local toilets, So there's those sort of very tangible moments and reasons that you say like, oh, you guys know best. And I love those moments, especially for my role as CEO of the organization, because they really stand out for us. But they also are just indicative of all these less tangible moments where there are nuances to every culture. There are nuances to how we respond to people from different cultures, from the same culture, etc. So all of this just says to me the best people to do the work are the local people on the ground. And I think you're right. When you go to other countries, you do see NGOs and people who make no mistake, you have to believe, at least I have to believe, that they mean well, that they're there to do things for others because they want to help, right? And I say in the talk again that helping is good. We're all socialized to learn that one should help others. And so, yeah, in my talk, I sort of challenge, if you're doing things for others, you're not helping them, you're potentially even hurting them.
Mm-hmm. And if you're doing too much for others, you're not helping them at all. I'm starting to get that feedback again, so I don't know what is going on, but go figure. I'm sure you're not doing anything and there it went away. So this is the kind of day that that I've had. It's interesting because sometimes the desire, like these NGOs, they come in the rah, and we're going to rescue and we're going to give and we're going to sacrifice. And that's almost as bad or possibly equally as bad just on the other ditch on the other side of the road. And that partnership attitude and really recognizing the dignity of people by realizing that they know how these customs work and they have skills and abilities that can really keep us on the straight and narrow. Doing too much or helping too much and being too generous. Powerful thing. Any thoughts on that as we pivot over?
Well, I think there's, when we travel and we do have autism professionals who travel with us, and we create sort of this Venn diagram that says their priorities, our priorities, and then in the third circle is sustainability. So knowing that, yes, we have things that are valuable to offer. Also, they have things that are valuable to offer. Also, if what we're trying to do is not sustainable, don't do it at all. And maybe it's not sustainable because they don't have a printer to print the worksheets that we're creating. Maybe it's not sustainable, because no one's actually going to do that on a Saturday in this country or whatever it is, So I think, that's sort of my thoughts on that.
Well, great. We've been enjoying this discussion with Molly Ola Pinney. Her talk is called Doing Things for Others Doesn't Help. And we're going to pivot right over to the Blitz Round in just a moment. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be the Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And it's time for the Blitz Round with Molly Ola Pinney. I'm about to ask her a series of questions, either or questions related to the preparation and the performance of her talk. Molly, are you ready?
I'm ready.
First question. Were you invited to speak or did you apply? You already answered it, actually. Yeah. And they gave you a very short amount of time, which you actually appreciated.
I sure did. Yeah.
Well, and you look like a hero coming through on a limited amount of time. So that's a nice additional benefit. Were you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender, Molly?
Not a memorizer. I had 5 slides that were kind of my pivot points. So each slide was kind of a reminder of what I was wanting to talk about next.
Okay.
What the slides didn't work, by the way. That's just the fun behind the scenes. Yeah, they didn't work at all. So.
I was in an event the other day, and a TEDx event, and I think we had about a 40 to 60% fail rate on the clickers. And it was pretty remarkable. Molly, what's a tip, tool, or technique that helped you prepare?
I have unconventional advice, right? That's like squish down the amount of time you're going to spend on it because it's going to take as long as you give it.
Yeah.
And you're never going to feel like you're done. You really aren't. It's just how it works,
Yeah. Well, unconventional is good, especially if you're wired in a certain way. Like myself, a recovering perfectionist. I'm gonna. And what is it? Parkinson's law. It says that a project is going to fill up all the time that you put. So if it's a year in advance, you're going to be doing a lot extra work. So that makes perfect sense to me. Talking
your mind,
What's that?
even if it's just in the back of your mind, you're going, oh, right.
Oh, it's on your mind. It crows a little bit every single day. Talk Universe, for those of you that are perfectionists or in recovery, as I still am. Hello, my name is Nathan. I'm still in recovery for perfectionism. I think this makes a lot of sense. That's why we have this blitz round for you. Molly, this is a cut for time question. What was the most painful part of your talk that you had to cut out?
I had tried to work in something about how I was really surprised when I got in the country to see kids in clean clothes, basically. And it just did not work. It did not fit. It did not work. I wasn't actually surprised to see them in clean clothes, but, and then when we share pictures of our work and the kids are wearing clean clothes, people are like totally shocked it's Africa. And I felt like, or developing country at all. And I felt like that was relevant, but I just couldn't figure out how to get it in there. So, well,
that's a hard thing to mention without sounding like the Instagram Savior Barbie piece. That's the kind of stuff. I can't remember the name of this, but she posted the other day, and it just, the burn just sizzles more and more every time they do this. If you want to know what we're talking about, hopefully I'll have a link in there. My editor will remind me to, what was that Instagram link? I'll look it up and we'll
Barbie, actually.
What was that?
Like that? I don't remember what it is. It's something like White Savior Barbie.
Yeah, White Savior Barbie. That's kind of the idea.
Like, they're so lucky I'm here,
Yes.
Like, oh, okay, no.
And she's selfieing herself, and look how great it is, and here's my GoFundMe, and it's my birthday, so donate, and all of the stuff. Oh, it's awful. First world, it's the ultimate first world problem watching that Instagram account, because it hurts. Because it hurts because it's real and it's true.
For our volunteers. Our volunteers are always totally shocked. They're going to go to, nice, well-equipped, well-trained, staffed autism centers. And there's in Africa? Like, yeah, you are, So, yeah.
Molly, my last question to you. What was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk?
So right before my talk, I realized that I had switched my bag at the last minute, and I hadn't put my necklace in the new bag, and I was upset about that. And so I sort of just decided, I can't, never mind, and then I went up to the stage and they said, oh, do you want to rehearse? And I was like, absolutely not. I've done a lot of talking in my life. The last thing I want to do is rehearse. And I got to the stage, and the guy who spoke before me was he gave an amazing talk, and he's standing on stage, he's going, Mokta. I literally remember that. And it was so kind of like rehearsed and dramatic, but it's beautiful. I listened to his talk. He stood himself up all straight, like lining up his voice or something. I don't even know. And I was like, whoa, like wrong person, wrong. I have a general idea of what I'm going to say. I actually don't totally know. I have absolutely not rehearsed this thing from head to tail. So I saw that, and I said, I've got to leave. I can't do this. And I was talked back into walking onto the stage.
They talked you down. Wow.
Yeah.
What did they say?
It was sort of like, okay, and I was like, what if I totally mess it up? And I decided if I totally mess it up, I just won't share it on the internet. There's going to be like 1,000 people here today. You talked to people earlier today who said they're with people who totally messed it up. All people remember is someone, they don't say, oh, this was her name and this was her talk and she totally messed it up. It's like they go, she totally messed it up. I don't know what happened to her.
Good point. We won't remember, folks.
Yeah, like if it's a total bust, no one's going to say anything. And so I sort of decided, like, what's the worst that can happen? I'll have to do another one that's shareable. And it came out okay. It really did. So,
Molly Ola Pinney, everyone. We've been enjoying this amazing conversation with her. She's the head of the Global Autism Project. That is actually her website, globalautismproject.org. We're going to have a link in the show notes page at BeTheTalk.com to the Global Autism Project.org, and as well as to her talk, which is called Doing Things for Others Doesn't Help. I love that. Do with, not for, is kind of the forward 4-word, not the foreword to a book, but the 4-word micro slogan, which is very, very memorable. And we're also going to put that Instagram Barbie account in the show notes, because
I know that's not me.
People are going to be asking comments, and I don't want to frustrate the people. So my audio engineer is going to remind me, and we're going to put that in the show notes. And we're going to be back with Molly Ola Pinney in just a moment for the final word of advice. Hey, Talk Universe, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted. And we're back with the final word of advice for Talk Universe from Molly Ola Pinney.
I would say that at the end of the day, after I gave my talk, my overwhelming feeling was that everybody has something to say. Every person has something to say. And I think it's easy to think I only have something to say if I'm accomplished or I've done great things in my life, or, and I think some of the best talks I heard that day were people who had, seemingly ordinary lives. And I think that, trust that you have something to say, and listen to that little voice that does share your message, because it's there for everyone, I think.
Well, Molly Ola Pinney, thank you so much for carving out time in your busy travel schedule to be on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.